The term becoming yourself or becoming your authentic self is a terminology that is so common nowadays. You probably have read it in magazines, you have seen it on social media, you have heard many people talk about becoming more authentic many times. But what you don't realize is that when most people use these terms, they're actually talking about something very superficial. And today, what I want to share with you is the true meaning of becoming your authentic self in a way that is actually going to make a meaningful, almost sometimes miraculous impact in your life. I'm Dr. Holda, and today I want to take you somewhere that current culture probably has never taken you before. Welcome to the next Becoming Yourself episode. What if all of your problems stem from the fact that you do not really know who you are? What if the world you live in is nothing more than a mirror of everything that you have decided you are right now? And what if the secret to your miracles, to receiving and becoming the dreams that are bigger than you, lie in becoming yourself? I'm Dr. Holda Gueye, and welcome to the Becoming Yourself podcast, the I Am journey to healing your body and your life. Welcome home. Welcome back to the next episode of Becoming Yourself podcast. I'm Dr. Holda, your host, and I'm excited to be here again with you. And I want to thank you very warmly for listening to this podcast. You're someone who's very special. Not everyone is going to see this podcast, let alone start listening to it this far and continue to listen to it. You're someone who is not okay with just all of the superficial things that are being fed to you and happening around you. You're someone who's looking for something that's a lot deeper, and believe it or not, something is awakening inside of you. And so I am blessed and humbled that you are listening to this. And I want to thank you again for allowing me to participate in your awakening. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about something that I think many would have assumed I would have started out with, and that is really defining what becoming yourself means, or becoming your authentic self. And the reason why I'm saving it for a few episodes in is because that term has been used so often that if I led with it, I think it would attract a lot of the wrong crowd and also repel a lot of the right people that really needed to hear this. And so I needed to lead with a message that was only going to reach those that really needed to take a deeper dive, that were ready to really start to peel away the things that are sabotaging their lives. And then we can come back here and really define what becoming your authentic self means. The way that current day media, culture uses become your authentic self is in the following way. They will, of course, talk about who you are, quote unquote, and making sure that who you are defining yourself to be is something that you have chosen and you have aligned with, and not something that you acquired from your parents or your caregivers or your friends, or maybe just from media, because media says you are supposed to fit in this box. But I'm going to take you deeper, because I know you are ready for this, so that you can really understand what I mean when I say take a journey to become your authentic self. Because I promise you it will change your life for the better, because where your true self lies is where all of your dreams, your desires unfold naturally, effortlessly. There are two parts to becoming your authentic self. The first part is what I call the external personality. Now, if you listen to someone talking about becoming your authentic self who knows a little bit of what they're talking about, so I'm not just talking about that very superficial approach that I just mentioned, they will talk to you about making sure that your desires are truly your desires and not something that you inherited from someone else. For example, I've gone to medical school with a lot of colleagues who realized that they actually never wanted to become a doctor, but they thought they did, that it was simply something that was sort of given to them by the environment that they grew up in, only to realize later that that wasn't truly what they really wanted deep inside, but they thought that it was. The external personality also refers to your purpose. We hear a lot of people trying to give you some clarity on your purpose, and there is so much lack of clarity on that because, again, we don't grow up with an intention to find our authentic selves. Unfortunately, our societies rear children to conform and not to find their unique voices and their unique excitement and unique passions and purpose. And so then we become adults looking for our purpose. And so as part of this external personality is finding that purpose, finding your life path. That's also something that comes up a lot. There are also, if you hear talks about self-care, which is really focused on honoring your rest and honoring your just taking care of yourself and not so focused on taking care of others and going through your responsibilities. Those are all part of finding this external personality, which is one aspect of becoming your authentic self. Now, within this external personality, very few people will actually go a step deeper. But in this external personality is also calling, or I should say it in a different way, in finding your authentic self within this external personality, you should also seek to shed the personalities that are not yours. And so, for example, when my son was maybe around 3 years old, he had a teacher tell him that he just wasn't good at art, that that wasn't his strength, that he was better with math and all the analytical stuff. And so he kind of carried that idea that was who he was, that was his personality, that he was not very artistic, until I caught on to it, until I sort of noticed it and heard it expressed through his own words a few years later when he was a little bit older, maybe around 6 or 7. And I showed him that was something that was told to him and that he didn't have to believe it. And as soon as he shed it, his artistic abilities began to flourish. Unfortunately, this happens to many of us in many various ways, and we rarely can pinpoint where that occurred. But finding and asking yourself which personalities are not yours is a deeper part of finding your authentic self, but it is still part of this external personality. And you'll hear very few people actually take you this deep, but I'm going to take you even deeper. The other part of this deeper introspection of the external personality is shedding the limiting beliefs that are not yours. And you may have heard this if you are in the sort of spiritual community. That comes up a lot. Or perhaps if you're working with some really good therapists and psychologists, this will come up. But a lot of the beliefs that we carry were also inherited and picked up, whether they were from caregivers, trusted individuals around us, or just people that we've observed and watched long enough that we then took on some of their beliefs. And they're called limiting beliefs because they limit how much you can achieve. They sort of put a invisible, artificial, fake wall around your world and tell you that this is possible and this is not. And so I would say those two aspects, shedding the personalities that are not yours and shedding the beliefs that are not yours, are one of the sort of deeper ways that you can truly dive into becoming closer to your authentic self, but you're still talking about the external personality. And these are aspects that I guide the women that I work with to look at. But I also will guide my clients with the second aspect, which is the most important aspect. However, this external personality, as you will see, is also important. The second aspect of your authentic self, and this is something that you have probably never heard before, that people don't talk about. And if you have heard it, you trust me, you are among the very rare humans that are walking around and listening to this podcast. That second aspect is what I call your soul signature. Now, I added signature instead of just saying soul because it is important to understand that this too is very unique and that there's nobody with that spiritual makeup that you have. And so what is your soul signature? Well, it is the part of you that is eternal. It is not the voice in your head. It is not your emotional makeup. It's not even your beliefs or any of the things that I just mentioned in that external personality. But it is instead the one who can observe and alter all of the things that I mentioned that are a part of your external personality. You see, the very fact that you have that capacity to observe and then to choose again. We're talking about choosing, parts of your external personality, tells you that external personality cannot possibly be you, because what is you is unchanging. If you can change it and let go of certain things and hold on to something new, then you are not the things you're letting go and grabbing onto. You're the one who's doing the grabbing and the letting go. And I want you to let that sink in. Who is the observer? Who is the chooser? And this is your soul signature. This soul signature, or another term that I hear used is higher self, was actually designed to lead the external personality. But because we've never learned that, and like I said, many of you have probably never heard this, we come into a world growing up thinking that we are this external personality. And so very clumsily, we bang our heads around the wall trying to figure things out because we are this external personality. And then it gives birth to all of the negative aspects of what we now know as the ego that we hear about. But the ego was never designed to be our enemy. I'm sure many of you have heard about how vicious the ego can be, and the ego is sort of that voice in your head that will breed guilt and will make you feel jealous and will make you feel separate and will tell you all the things that you can't do in an attempt to protect you. But the truth is, it only became that way because your soul signature, your higher self, was missing in action. It had no leader. And a tool that wasn't designed to lead, to predict and direct the future, can only go awry, can only breed what we currently criticize the ego for. And I have seen in my own life that when this became clear, when I really started to align with my soul signature and allowed my soul signature to then choose and direct my external personality, there was no enemy in my head any longer. This human tendency to create wars everywhere, internally and externally, should always be sort of that red flag for you that something is off here. And so this entire community that tries to make the ego the bad guy has been a red flag for me for the longest time, because how can such a perfect universe make such a huge mistake? And it didn't. And if you believe in God, how can such a perfect God make such a big mistake by creating this ego mind? But it actually never did. What happened was the tool, the program, lost its programmer. And because we are free beings that are powerful and can create whatever it is we wish, we were allowed to experiment with a program that has no programmer. And so, of course, when you are not designed to direct a massive ship through a complex world, then you become fearful, you become anxious, you become overwhelmed, you become frustrated. Sounds familiar? Yeah, that's what our ego minds have become. But when you give it permission to let go, when you give this external personality, which you will hear me also refer to as the avatar, when you give it permission to do what it was designed to do, and it is an amazing machine, which is not to lead your life, which is not to try to give you direction for the future, but to really just experience in the moment and to create in the moment, and then align with your soul signature, awaken your soul signature, and have it lead your personality, then this war ends. And so when I talk about becoming your authentic self, this is what I am talking about. I'm talking about not only finding that external personality that is everything that is aligned with your deepest, biggest, truest desires, but most importantly, an external personality that is aligned with your soul signature. And in order to do that, you must find your soul signature. And so I thank you again for being a special soul in the special times that we live in, that is bold enough and courageous enough to ask different questions, to choose a different direction, and to realize that there has to be something more. Because you're right, there is. And if you would like to go a little bit deeper, please join my free Inner Circle, Dr. Holda's Inner Circle. And I will put the link to the community. It is a community that I have transferred over from a Facebook community. And so if you're joining at the time of the release of this episode, you'll see that it's still very new. But go on in there, introduce yourself, And you'll see me there with extra videos and resources that are not available on YouTube or on this podcast. So, I definitely hope that you decide to join this inner circle of supportive women that are on a journey very similar to yours. Until the next episode, I want you to always remember to shine as if you were the one, because you are. I'll see you next time.